Since he helped the master find the culprit, Gawa asked if he would get a reward. The master crushed his daughter's head in a fury and explained that Huang was the one who delivered this morning's medicinal primer. He asked Gawa to tell him where Huang would get the primer from if he didn't go to the warehouse. Gawa dropped to his knees and he started pleading with the master. He apologized, saying he was wrong and that after seeing Huang get promoted to disciple, he thought this would be a good opportunity to get a promotion, which is why he lied. As Gawa apologized, one of the disciples glanced over with a smirk. Blood suddenly splashed across his face, and in the reflection in his eyes, we see the master with a menacing aura about him, expressing that when Huang was being falsely accused just now, this disciple seemed happy. The master jumped at him, asking if his fellow disciple being falsely accused makes him happy. The disciple couldn't respond, he froze due to fear. The master brought his face closer to his, and he called the disciple's name. The disciple fell to the ground, pleading, saying he's not the culprit. He pointed to Jenkun, saying he forced him to do it. The master glared at Jenkun, and he suddenly took off running. The master's voice echoed throughout the cave in a calm and menacing tone, saying he should have known it was Jenkun, as he is the only one who can undo the restriction to his room. He reached into his pockets and pulled out what seems to be a coin, asking Jenkun if he really thought he could go into his master's room without any consequences. He flipped the coin, and as the coin was nearing the ground, he lifted his leg and crushed the coin underneath his feet. Jenkun's extremities were suddenly cut off, and he started pleading with the master. He pointed back to the time when they were being hunted and his two younger brothers sacrificed their lives so they could escape. However, the master wasn't showing any signs of sympathy. Jenkun continued pleading. The master had already made him useless, so he asked him to show mercy this one time. The master stepped on his head, and before crushing it, he remarked that Jenkun is just like his two younger brothers. They are all wolves that can't be raised. Afterwards, he crushed Jenkun's head in front of everyone. After this incident, the master wasted no time. He asked everyone to gather in front of the statues of the ancestral masters, and after Huang finished paying his respect, he announced that going forward Huang will be his most favored disciple. The workers all congratulated Huang, and Gawa looked on anxiously. The master asked Huang to follow him and he ordered the others to disperse. Huang followed behind the master, excited about his new promotion. The master brought Huang to his room, and as they stood in front of the heavenly scripture, he expressed that he just remembered that Huang can read. Huang paused for a moment, then he replied, confirming to the master that he can read. The master was glad that Huang could read. He lifted his hand in the air and his hand started emitting a greenish glow. The green aura suddenly took the shape of words, and the coins that had been strung around the heavenly scripture started moving on their own, and they wrapped around the master's wrist. The master asked Huang to take a look at the heavenly scripture to see if he could make sense of it. Huang cautiously approached the heavenly scripture. The previous interpreter made up the previous cultivation methods for becoming an immortal, and if he can't be useful, Huang was scared that his secret will be exposed. So he decided to overturn everything. After looking over the heavenly scripture, he comments that he understands what the scripture is saying. The master asked him to explain what he saw. Huang scratched his head, questioning why the heavenly scripture made no mention of the blood-nourishing elixir recipe he taught him a while back. This confused the master, and Huang turned his attention to the heavenly scripture again, saying the heavenly scripture is actually a set of internal cultivation techniques. Huang read what was written in the heavenly scripture, which stated that the order from above is that internal cultivation must be done before the old year ends and the new year begins. Combining and consuming multiple types of external elixirs simultaneously during cultivation is the only way one can absorb the spiritual energy infused into the mortal realm by the heavenly Tao and achieve immortality. The master pushed Huang aside, interrupting his reading. What Huang was saying made no sense. The previous interpreter never mentioned anything about cultivation techniques or the requirement of external elixirs. The master fixed his gaze on the tablet, trying to make sense of the writing, and Huang explained to him that the heavenly scripture mentioned various kinds of external elixirs and their recipes. The first required 2 liang and 4 kyan of cinnabar, 1 kyan of white silver, 1 liang and 2 kyan of arsenic, and 1 Mr. Yu to refine his soul. Huang asked the master if he knows what kind of ingredient a Mr. Yu is. The master suddenly released his energy. His tone shifted and he stated that his daughter said this heavenly scripture keeps changing, and that it's impossible to memorize. He continued on saying that it's no wonder he hasn't been able to become an immortal after all this time. All those he surrounded himself with have been deceiving him. He turned to Huang, pointing out the fact that his daughter and many others have tried to deceive him, so he asked Huang if he was planning to do the same. Huang pointed out that they were after the same thing, so he has no reason to deceive the master. The master was skeptical. He observed Huang closely. Afterwards, he patted Huang on the shoulder with a smile on his face, and he asked him to explain the cultivation technique to him. He comments that they should hold off on refining any more external elixirs until he masters the cultivation technique. This time he will ascend to immortality alongside his disciple. Sometime later we see Huang leaving the master's room. Thanks to reading a lot of webtoon novels, he was able to create a set of techniques on the spot. As he walked, he noticed a light source approaching him. It was Bai and the other workers. Now that they got through this safely, he assured them that he will fulfill the promise he made to them, and soon they will all be able to return home. The workers dropped to their knees and thanked Huang for what he has done for them. But Huang pointed out that he should be the one thanking them, because if they didn't help him then he would have died earlier today. Huang never expected that in this strange world he would actually become companions with these strange-looking guys. He proceeded to ask them to help him with something related to them escaping successfully. He asked them if they have any other rumors, stories, and legends like Master Yu. Bai stepped up, and she explained that besides Master Yu she has heard the Master talk about a great evil. The Master referred to it as Big Grandma. Huang didn't think this creature was anything special or useful, but Bai issued a warning saying the Grandma has eyes and ears everywhere. Firstly, Grandma's appearance is different in front of everyone. Some people say it looks like a monster with long ears, others say that it looks like a deceased elderly person, and the most common rumor is that if you're discovered by the Grandma then you yourself will turn into the Grandma. After telling him about the Grandma, Bai asked Huang if he thinks this information will be helpful. Huang went silent for a moment. The story that Bai just told took him by surprise, and he notes that this world is full of strange and inexplicable things. He thanked Bai for the information, and he asked the others if they had stories. The workers all had a story to tell. Gawa spoke, saying he knows that some people skin children and put them in dog hides to train them as dogs. Then they use these dogs to perform acrobatics. Huang told him that he didn't ask for scary stories. He was looking for stories similar to the story of Master Yu and the Big Grandma. A weak-looking worker, Zhao Wu, stated that he knows about a mother-in-law fish. He heard the elders back in his village talk about it. The mother-in-law fish looks strange and it only appears during floods. Huang found the story strange, but he told the workers that these were the kind of stories he was looking for. Another worker, Sha Zai, raised his hand saying he has a story too, but Huang walked past him saying that's enough for today. He told them to wait quietly for news. The next day, inside the master's room, Huang acted like he was reading off the recipe on the heavenly scripture. He explained that the recipe wants to refine Big Grandma's heart essence. The master interjects by asking what a Big Grandma is. Huang explains that he doesn't know either, but he will keep on reading to find out. Next, the recipe calls for 1 mother-in-law fish. Take the gills of the mother-in-law fish and soak them in 2 liang of arsenic. The master remarks that arsenic tends to be too cold, so it will benefit from something hot like the mother-in-law fish. He didn't expect the heavenly scripture to mention evil spirits as ingredients, but if humans can form golden elixirs, then why not spirits? The master suddenly pulled out a bell, which shone a golden light as he rang it. The sound from the bell disrupted Huang's thinking. For a moment he thought the master figured him out, and he started questioning where he went wrong. Then he noticed 2 different energies coming from the stone tablet, the 2 energies combined, taking the shape of a spirit. Huang had many things running through his head, but he was distracted by the master, who suddenly picked up dirt and started eating it. The master turned to the spirits, and he started talking to them in a language Huang couldn't understand. A short while later he expresses that although the things written in the heavenly scripture are difficult to obtain, it will be no problem for him, and as long as he knows where he can get the items he can just take it. Huang was taken aback. He quickly guessed that those spirits told the master where he could find those ingredients. He asked the master what he meant by taking the ingredients. The master turned with a smile, asking if Huang thought someone was just going to give him those ingredients for free. He explained that the thing he summoned with the bell just now is called Master Yu. He added that he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, so finding the ingredients shouldn't be a problem. The master stated that he put a lot of effort into taking the bell. He narrates that when he was 5 and older, a beggar snatched a steaming bun from his hand. From then on he understood the truth about this world. If you don't have what others have, your only option is to steal. In his youth he robbed women, robbed horses, robbed silver, and even robbed magical artifacts. He stole disciples and seized control of the entire Qingfeng temple. He told Huang to take what he is saying to heart, because he is only telling him this because he now considers him his own. Huang asked what would happen if he fails. The master suddenly struck him, asking how a person who is literate can be so stupid. If you can't outright steal it, then you must think of another way to steal it. If you can't do it alone, then work together. If 2 people can't do it, then drug the owner of the item you're trying to steal. If drugs don't work, you will have to do it the hard way. They told him he wouldn't make it because he couldn't read, and even called him a practitioner of heretical teaching. But when he becomes immortal, he will pry open those guys' eyes and show them that his way of life is correct. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then watch another one. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.